Welcome. So we have a very special guest today, Pete Zulia. We're going to have to follow up with him about what all the letters mean behind his name, right? So we've got MBA, AT, ATC, PT, SCS, right? And he's actually the co-founder of Oxford Physical Therapy Centers in Cincinnati, Ohio. But he also has lots of experience at WVU. He actually went through the athletic training program here at CPASS, I believe 1983?
81 to 83.
83, okay. Since then, he's done a few other degrees, worked on physical therapy, sports clinical specialist, and he actually went back to get his MBA back through WVU once again. And so, he started his career off as a physical therapist and an athletic trainer in Cincinnati. And through these experiences, he actually created and co-founded the Oxford Physical Therapy, which currently has 14 different locations. Hopefully, is it still at 14?
Actually 23.
23. These are old numbers. Look at that. We're growing. We're talking about that the growth model. So he's taught 10 years at athletic training at Miami, at Miami University, which is in Ohio.
Oxford, Ohio.
Yep. And basically, he's all about community service, helping the community, and that's why he's back here volunteering his time to help us with our curriculum and moving forward as we can launch our careers through CPASS in a lifetime of learning.
Absolutely.
So let's give it up for Pete Zulia.
Are you going to be following me on the? Are you going to be following me? Because I kind of like to walk around. Is that okay? Because I'm not very stationary. Dr. Yates, thanks for inviting me. Got a couple of quick questions for you, and if you don't mind, are you guys taking notes with your phones right now? You are? Seriously? Yep. All right, that's good. Let me ask you couple of quick questions. First one. Was any major decision ever made in your life to this point by texting, emailing, or something other than direct face-to-face contact? Yes or no? Really? Anything substantial? What was it, if you don't mind me asking? You got a job? Okay, but at some point you had to talk to somebody, right? Texting, but you never had face-to-face contact. Okay, so that's a little pre-qualified, right? Okay, but anything that you've done, any major decision you've made by using your phone, your email, or anything like that, yes or no? Pretty much not, right? So this thing, where is it? This thing's a great tool. But please remind yourself of one thing. Don't let that be the determining factor at any time. That's not good for your neck, by the way. Because the reason for it is this, and here's the advantage that you should take, because I've got PE students and coaching students in this class, right? It's an introductory class. Most everybody is freshman, sophomore, junior, athlete. Okay, how many people aren't an athlete of some kind or another? Aren't? Okay, you didn't play any sports. Anything recreational. But everybody's an athlete in something, right? Okay. Remember this one. The acumen or the idea of athletics can go with you pretty much your entire life. Because what does athletics primarily teach you? Teamwork. You got to rely on somebody else, and more importantly, they have to rely on you. Right? So you guys are going to be teaching Okay. Did everybody in elementary school, middle school, high school, did you have a PE teacher? Yes? Okay. Byron Linville, Jim Baker, Joe Oliverio, Vic Clary. Vic Clary's actually 95. Those are my PE teachers from like first grade on. And every one of them I can remember something about what they did or what they said that stuck with me to this day. You realize how important your role is engaging and guiding people at this young an age. It's a heck of a responsibility. The second thing about it is this. How many people has everybody gone home at least once since they went back, since they got here? Okay, of the people that went back home, did you see your high school football coach or your high school basketball coach? Or did you go see somebody that coached you? Why? For some reason, right? For some reason. Okay, it could be anything. But my point to you is, are you going to go back to them at the end of the year? Yeah. For some reason, right? There's some sort of an impact. 5, 6, 10 years from now, that's you. The scary thing is how much of an impact you can make and you have no idea you're doing it. So this whole thing today is about not what I do. I'm going to run through slides and everything. How I got here and what I ended up with. I wanted to be an athletic trainer in a high school, and I wanted to teach math, science, or some sort of, because my degree is in, my minor is athletic training, but my major actually was secondary education. I could have been your math teacher, you know? And somehow along the way I got down this pathway that happened. Has anybody ever heard the phrase, you need to be a sponge? What does that mean? What does that mean?
You have to absorb all the information.
Okay, when do you stop being a sponge?
Never.
Never. Ever. When I'm interviewing people, like for a job, now these are the folks, most of the time when I interview, I'm interviewing somebody that's gone through 7 years of school, 7 years of training to identify if they actually want to work for us as well as the other way around. What do you think one of the questions I ask them in my interview? I don't care, just anybody say anything. It's an open invite, by the way. What kind of question do you think I ask?
Why are you here?
That's a great question. Why are you here? What other ones? Remember that one later on here because it's going to come up again. What other question would I ask?
What's your experience?
Okay. The resume will tell me, you know, that they went to school and they did this, this, or this based on their education. But what do I want to know? More importantly, what do they want? What's their goal? And does that mesh with whatever we do? Okay, I'm going to ask you, I don't know if you guys have done this yet, but there's going to be, has anybody ever written a personal mission statement? Okay, where is it? Where is it? Okay, why isn't it printed and wherever you do your homework? You want to know why you should do that? Because it's a continual reminder. Okay? It's a continual reminder. Who's an athlete right now? Any of you guys athletes right now? Anybody? Rec team. Okay. What sport? Rugby. Okay. Guess what question I ask when I'm interviewing somebody? What sport did you play? Why would I ask that? Okay. Teamwork, you don't get anywhere in life without somebody. And if you think you do, you're not going to go very far. Or you're going to have a lot of chairs as friends rather than friends. Okay? So I dial down. I ask them the question, then I go, what sport? Then what's the next question I ask? What position did you play? Okay? And then the next question after that is what? How did your team do? Do I ever ask how many receptions you had? How many three-point plays did you make? I could care less about that. And again, with everything that you're doing, the reason why I asked the question about did you ever interview face-to-face? Nothing is decided on the phone or the smartphone or whatever you want to call it these days. Nothing, electronically or otherwise. It gets you in the room, but how you perform in the interview is going to set you up for literally your professional career. And so I ask questions like that, and I'll just let you know. Well, if I want to get a team approach, okay, and I want to get someone that ingrains, and I've got 140 people that work for us, and they work in 23 different locations. Okay, that's like herding cats. So the pre-qualifiers of what we look for have to be pretty much sound, because they're going to be in all these different locations representing me. How many people do you know right now that you have confidence that if whatever you're trying to do, they can represent you without you being there? I'd like to know if anybody has an answer that says, yeah, I got one. Because you really don't. And you're never totally sure. Am I understand what I'm trying to get at? Okay. Do you think I want to hire a point guard in basketball? Point guard, catcher, second baseman, shortstop, center fielder. Why would I look for those kinds of people? Because they control, and what else? They see everything. And what do they have to do with it? Not only act, but call the shots or react. Okay, baseball right now. I live in Cincinnati. There's 162 baseball games in the year. I probably go to 3 of them, and most of the time it's if I get tickets. Most of the time, because most people think watching baseball is like watching grass grow. I don't. When I go to a game, like if you're watching playoffs and there's a play at second base, if the camera shots out far enough, I want to know where the center fielder is. Because guaranteed, if the throw's coming from the catcher, the center fielder is going to stay in direct line with the ball. Why? If he misses it, he's got to back him up. Would I hire a shooting guard? What are you watching now? What are you watching? Huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Would I hire a shooting guard? No. Why? Name me a shooting guard that you've ever seen that hadn't seen a shot they shouldn't take. Seriously. That's their makeup. You know? And if they miss 3, what are they going to do the next time down the court? They're going to try to hit the next one. Their memory is like minimal. But they only have one thing to do. You think I want to hire that person? No. How about a defensive lineman? Why? But basically they got one job. Go forward. How about an offensive lineman? In a heartbeat. I got a partner that's an offensive lineman. See what I'm getting at? Okay. Hockey players. Absolutely. Why? There's 6 guys on the ice at one time, 6 people on the ice at one time, and they all have to work together. Because most of the time in hockey, how many goals do you normally see? 2, 3, 4. So if somebody does really well, they've scored 3 or 4 goals in 60 minutes. Okay? Dial it down one more level. How about women's soccer players? Every one of them. Male soccer players? I don't know. Why? A little dramatic, don't you think? Okay. Would I hire a wide receiver or defensive back in football? Really? Would you hire Odell Beckham Jr. to be on your team? Why? Now, this is not I'm not talking about sports. I'm talking about in your business. Why would I be questioning that? Because he's a diva. He's good at what he does, but he's got one job, and it's all about him. Again, just some things, but what does sport also teach you? Humility. And if you're going to be teaching PE, or you're going to be coaching people, you got to have that responsibility to understand the makeup of that individual. No different than business. So, that was my opening. What's that? I can't hear. See, when you get older, you can't hear either. So just say it. Well, okay, that's good. That's water. What is it? The drop. Okay, why would I want to put that up there?
Is that the like ripple effect?
Thank you. Okay, ripple effect is huge. So whatever you do or whatever your actions are, they're going to be, it could resound itself for years later on, and you may not even know who you're impacting. Nothing's immediate. There's 7 days, in the week, and some day is not one of them. If you're going to talk about something that you need to do or you think you want to do, you better do it. Procrastination is not part of the game plan. Okay? And I always look at it, the glass is always half full. It could be a drop in there. I'm thinking, God, I can't wait to drink that water. And these are kind of self-motivating things that you kind of have to identify with. When I was in high school, I had the ability or the fortune to be a ball boy for a professional football team. Yeah, it was really glamorous, but guess what? I picked up other people's dirty laundry. How fun is that? And my dad said, if you can do that, you can do it. And to be honest with you, that opportunity, the guy that was the assistant athletic trainer for the Bills at the time used to be the head athletic trainer at West Virginia. Here lies why I'm here, 40 years later. It just continued to grow from that. I want to know your why. But more importantly, you need to know your why. Going back to what your statement is. Because you don't realize that this actually could be one of the most important classes you ever take. Because it sets a foundation for you. It's just an idea that you need to kind of look at. And I kind of did a bunch of different things at West Virginia. When you're in the athletic training curriculum, you see you do all kinds of activities with all different types of sports. But I got to do something at a physical therapy place in town, and I kind of thought, you know what? I might be able to do this not just with athletes, but I can do that same mentality with pretty much the general public. Which kind of got me going in a different direction, because I was thinking maybe I don't want to teach. Yeah, I'm going to teach. But then that kind of happened. And so some of these learning lessons that you prepare yourself for, some of the things that you're going to see and you identify. Right now you're sitting in class, you're thinking, okay, what's the next assignment? I mean, I've been there, I know. I taught for 10 years. I mean, I know what everybody's thinking. But the key point is, what kind of nuggets are you going to take from it that you can actually remember? What did this guy drive 4.5 hours this morning? One accident that I was sitting in traffic for a half an hour doing nothing, and then slowed traffic 2 more times. Why am I here? Because I think it's pretty cool to share some of this stuff with you guys, because it actually can come to your advantage. And the only reason why you do anything is if you have a dream for it. You know, we can talk about personal mission statements and all. It starts with a dream. It's what it is. Athletics, no matter what it is. Some of your friends that are downtown at the business school, or they're taking classes in science, you know. All of that starts with, what are you going to do with your, what's that game plan you have? Well, as coaches, tell me that they don't talk about game plans starting at the beginning of the year, preseason. Then when you get into season, it's routine, okay? But there's always the end result. Games are not won in football on Saturday. Games are won on whatever happens after the game until the next game. It's all preparation. Follow me? Am I losing you yet? We okay? So anyways, I think that that's some of the things that ends up happening. My most important thing I ever did was modify whatever I learned. Because what I got out of it compared to what was supposed to be intended is completely different. It's based on how I kind of thought through it. Oops. One of my favorite lines, Wayne Gretzky, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you never take. You know, actually the greatest hockey player of all time. So my own personal story was, I wanted to go to PT school. I didn't really score very well on my first try in physics. I bagged it, didn't think it was going to happen. The summer before my senior year, I sent 13 applications. I don't know what you do now with applications when you don't get something. We used to have it printed off, and we got it in the mail, and we would stick it on our wall. Now you like leave it in your Dropbox, whatever. But I got 12 applications that came back that they basically said I didn't meet the grade. One school did, but I had to pass 8 hours of physics in 6 weeks. Okay, so how do you do that? You know, and give up, this is 1983, I gave up a graduate assistantship. And Doc will be appreciative of this. This is 1983. I was going to get a graduate assistantship. Tuition was paid for, and I was going to get paid $8,300 a year. That doesn't happen now. I gave it up, and for a Women in Prayer, because I didn't want to not tell the people that had taken a shot at me, and I had to give it up just in case I did make it, then they wouldn't be lost. They needed to replace me to begin with. So I could have went through this whole thing and not passed, and then I didn't have anything. So I'm kind of a risk taker on top of that, which I think most athletes have some of that in them anyways. You know, it's like, dare me not to win. You know, put me in a corner and make me fight. You know, athletics. So anyways, just kind of learn from it. You either cave or you overcome. You kind of might identify certain things. I just want you guys to understand that right now you're a sponge that hasn't gotten wet yet, and you got opportunities throughout your entire time here. If you look at your curriculum and your syllabus, there's a number of things that we're going to kind of talk about here in a second. But take every opportunity. What's going to get you your first job compared to 30 other people? What's going to set you apart? Only you can answer that. The last thing you want to do is go through 4 or 5 years of school and not have a direction for that first professional opportunity. And so these are things that I think right now for you, you're just trying to kind of mold that, you know. Anyways, and this is where preparation comes into play. Preparation is more important than anything, because if you're not prepared, when you try to perform your activity, it's going to fail. I'm sure people follow the WVU men's basketball team. you could be the greatest shooter in the world, but if you can't play defense, you're never going to get off the bench. You may not even be on the team. Okay? Because that's a huge part of what you're supposed to do. Well, how do you teach that? You know, how do people at that basketball complex recruit the best basketball player for their mentality? And I'm guaranteeing you there are people that walk through that facility that are very good basketball players, and they won't even get a scholarship offer. Why? Because their mentality is not where the culture is. Who creates the culture? You guys are going to be doing it in less than 5 years. You're creating it. Let me ask you another question. Who's going to be a PE teacher? Okay, let me ask you this question. Be objective. Would you want to teach you? Seriously. Put yourself in the third person. And then look at both your positives and your negatives. And then ask the question again. Would you want to teach you? In athletic training, when I was teaching, I would say this to these prospective athletic trainers. You're an athlete, okay, and you, the athlete, goes down, okay? You're hurt. Would you feel confident and comfortable with you, the athletic trainer, evaluating your injury? That's the ultimate in continually revolving around the fact that I got to get better at everything I do. Because here's the scary part. I guarantee you there was a few of them that said, there's no way I want me treating myself. Which is crazy. So those are the kinds of things that help you with preparation. Has anybody ever read this? Have you seen it? It's in your syllabus. This is in your syllabus. This is the reason why you take this course. This is the introductory page to basically say why you're here for this course. A perspective for PE teachers and athletic coaches for early experiences. Explain to me what is meant by early experiences. What do you think that means? What's an early experience?
We had a job shadow.
Job shadow. Okay, what else? Nothing? Service. Any service activities? What kind of service activity? Huh?
Ball boy.
Okay. I'm talking about what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Because we have to do something.
Okay.
That's what we need.
All right. What else? Has anybody done anything yet? You're waiting till the end, right? Service activities where somebody is in need of your passion. I don't know if you saw, did you guys, there was a spot on some of the social media sites. Coach Holgerson's mom, who may be one of the nicest human beings you ever want to meet. Guess what she does 2 or 3 times a week now in Morgantown? Did any of you see it? You need to Google it, seriously. You need to check this out. At the hospital, there is unfortunately a lot of babies born where the parents have a lot of substance challenges. And in those situations, sometimes the family life may be challenging as well. Mrs. Holgerson is one of a number of people that is like grandma. Comes in, hugs the baby, you know, just do the things that nurtures and helps and serves, you know, a need. That's pretty cool. And if you knew her, then you'd think, man, that's actually something that I'd like to get involved with. Because who is more needing in need of your service and your dedication than a newborn baby? Things like that remind you that of why you're doing what you're doing in school, and it's not the job of the school to teach you, it's the obligation you have to give back. And that, again, that's something that I think is really important. The second thing here is that introductory knowledge in PE and coaching hopefully sets the stage for your career. And guess what? Sometimes it doesn't have to be ultimately at the end game of being in coaching or in teaching PE. A lot of coaches, after they retire, what do? Somehow or another, they get into motivational speaking. Somehow they get into the, name me one coach that was worth anything that wasn't like obsessive compulsive at organization. You know, I mean, you're on the basketball court and you don't move your foot just a certain way. And they'll stop practice and say you didn't do that, which sets you up for the next 5 steps. Who thinks that way? And those are things that actually can be the details that really help you out. So based on what your syllabus says, the plan of study hopefully can create a little bit more of a thought process as to what you're trying to accomplish. Mountaineer experience, man, that is so vanilla and so opportunistic. You know, I forget about High Street for a second. We've all been there, trust me. It's the same 35, 40 years ago as it is today. That hasn't changed. Okay, so let's not worry about that Mountaineer experience. Or the burning couches, although you can't burn couches anymore, because if you do that, you get expelled. We didn't have that problem back then. But think about the things that you can do from student teaching to any kind of youth activities after school activities that sometimes kids are enrolled in because their parents work. They're a great opportunity to share your experience with them, and you actually start realizing that there's a little bit of self-wealth there for you to give back. That's part of this. That's part of this course, is to get that kind of experience. Field observations, again, with whatever you're trying to identify. Global engagement. Exactly what is global engagement?
So part of that is the community service piece. We have the ISERV, the BTU, EDU.
So it's not just this class,
Yeah.
it's the university.
It's our whole university has this
Right.
platform where they can sign up for a lot of community service
Cool.
situations. And so I think our student Albert over here was telling us about volunteering with the soccer. Yeah, so that would be one example. Somebody else was signed up for the football next Thursday. Yep.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's part of
Yeah. Sign up for everything you can.
globalization. We've also been talking about studying abroad, right? And setting up some of those opportunities. How that's,
Yeah.
we had some students here on campus with the study abroad program. So we talked about, global engagement and
Right.
those terms.
There's a lot out there, but the only way it's going to happen is if you do something about it. So, anyways, and I just kind of love the idea of, again, if you're gonna apply for a job when it's time to apply for a job, does anybody want to hire somebody that's just ordinary? No. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not going to. Look at the resume and talk to the person and say, yeah, on a scale of 0 to 10, I really want a 10. I'll take a 4. That's not going to happen. I'd rather do it myself and hire somebody that's going to actually take more time for me to coach them, and they don't get it, or they don't want to get it. So there's a little bit of want to there as well. And in every athletic activity, You have to have a want to win. So that's kind of the purpose of it. And the thing that I wanted to let you know about is, believe it or not, my experience, especially in this school, where there's so much identification of activity and involvement and growth with regards to giving back in so many different levels, it started here. I didn't realize it until after I left how much I'd actually learned from this place and actually this school. And again, I was going to be a teacher, I was going to be an athletic trainer, ended up becoming a PT and whatever else happened after that. Just kind of the opportunity just kind of fell. But the big question is this: can you guys write your why, write your want to? Have you written one yet? Well, that's your assignment. 2, 3 sentences, you know, share it with Doc to make sure that you've done it. Take some thought and make some thought involved in it, because here's my why. I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to change somebody's life. I know that sounds really, really kind of crazy at the age you guys are at right now, but that's what it was. So my business partner and I, who was my boss when I first was hired, we started a company on 3 premises. Just 3. Define what we do by how we do it, not somebody else's definition. Doesn't that sound like it's personal? Identify that you're going to have to change over time, because, you know, it's not 1984 or 2015, it's today. So you got to adapt to those changes. And what do you think the most important one of all was? Which was number 3. Yes. I haven't lost you yet. Nobody's sleeping yet. What was my last thing? All right, that's the premise. Define it our way, change with the times, and what's the third thing? Enjoy it. You gotta have fun. If I'm not having fun, I ain't doing it. Period. It's not gonna happen. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, you will go to work and you will have a job. But if you go to a career that you love, then guess what? You're going to laugh because people are going to pay you to have a good time. Do what you love. You're never going. I'm telling you, you're never going to work. And even on your worst day, it's better than most people's great days. You know, has anybody ever had a selfie with a bald eagle? During my graduation, the second time, Gordon Gee has his signature on both of my graduation certificates, one in 1983 and the other in 2014. And everybody was like just getting it up there. I'm going to do a selfie with this guy. You know. By the way, if you've ever had the opportunity to meet him, has anybody ever met him? How can he be so engaging? Let me ask you this question. Do you think he hates his job? There's the model. You know? His favorite question to ask every student is, what can I do for you? Think about that. So when you're walking into a student teaching situation, or you're coaching 7-year-olds, what should be the first thing that comes out of your mouth? What can I do for you? I always do this one because you know who that is? Even I went to high school together. I knew Caridi when he was 12. His feet are this big. And they were this big when he was 12. But that's the kind of stuff that goes on. You can have fun where, you know where that is? I'm dating myself with this one. Okay, you're in the ballpark, but can you name what that is? That's Abbey Road. Now, that actually is a road. And this was my business partner and I. We went and did a history thing. Our wives said, just go, because we don't want to talk about what's already happened. But this is like a busy street. And the intersection right here, like Apple Records is right here. And there's this road that comes up over a hill this way, and a road that comes up over the hill this way. And then you got all these people that want to do this. It's hysterical. And people just stop while you're doing it. And everybody's kind of doing the one time when we were there, they had one guy that, you know, are you familiar with the picture? Okay. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Which one of the four Beatles didn't have his shoes on?
John Lennon.
No, Paul McCartney. Okay? There were two sets of people. And it was pretty cool because it was like folks your age. They all were in character. And of course, one guy had to be the one without any shoes on. And so you're seeing this play out. It's hysterical. But actually, it's got a pretty cool thing. But this is just stuff that's fun. You know, the other question is this. Can you see yourself 35 years from now doing what I'm doing right now? That's the challenge. Because if you're not thinking like that, you're not giving back. And if you're not giving back, you're the wide receiver who has no friends. I'm paraphrasing. You know, but that's the point. Does that make any sense? Okay. The challenge that I have for you, and again, I'm trying not to be too long because I love talking about this stuff. But the challenge I have for you is this: you have no idea who you're influencing. You have zero clue who you're influencing. And the easiest thing right now is to figure out who's influenced you and why. Because if you bring it up to them, I will guarantee you they have not even remembered what you said. That's how impactful this is. So as a coach, as a teacher, as a leader, you're not talking about you, you're talking about them. And that's the thing that just continues to, you know, get it going. So that's what I wanted to tell you. One more thing, if you don't mind. How many people are on social media? Guess how many people we took back offers of jobs based on what they said or did in social media? Well, not 4. 4 people. Why? What do you think would be the reasons? Define inappropriate. Well, in this day and age, everything's inappropriate because you're offending somebody.
Maybe it just wasn't professional.
Okay, that's the biggest one. Okay? It's almost like this. If it's 2017 and you've just gone through, and a physical therapist, they have a terminal degree. There's 7 years, minimal 7 years of education. Okay? And if you graduated in 2017, and I see your posts, and I don't do it, we actually hire a firm that does the background checks based on what we feel is important. There are things that happen when you're a freshman in college or a sophomore in high school. Then in social media, you just post because you don't know any better and you think it's funny because you're thinking of just that, not the impact. That's one thing. But if it's 4 weeks before your interview and you see something, that's a red flag. What other things would be a recommendation for us to say, you know what, maybe we just can't do this? Foul language is probably something that we would ask. Okay? If there's an arrest, public intoxication. Public intoxication is not a good thing. Please don't do that. Okay? Because the reason is this, is that when you're 18, 19, and you're not of age, and this happens, it stays with you. I had a friend of mine whose son was an honor student at Miami of Ohio, which is in the MAC and up in, outside of Cincinnati. I get a phone call from a friend of mine who's friends with this family. He did an internship at this hospital. He was an occupational therapist. Did an internship with this hospital for 3 months. And most of the time with internships, to me, hopefully you look at it as it's a on-the-job interview. They hired him, went through the paperwork before he even finished his clinical internship. Guess what happened? What happened when he was 18 came back to haunt him. And it was a institution that is faith-based. You know, now most of those hospital systems are like monsters. They're huge, but they're identified as faith-based. They took his offer off the table. They already knew him. And somebody in HR said, "We can't do this." That's how sensitive we are today. If you paid any attention at all to what was going on in August in Washington and what was going on with that, we're talking about something that happened 35 years ago without social media. I can't even imagine what today is like. But it comes back. And I'm telling you, as an employer, there's a liability there if there's something that was negative. And I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just telling you the truth. You know? So that's the thing that I think right now, from like literally this moment forward, you're ready and preparing for your job interview. If it's 4 years from now, 3 years from now, 7 years from now, everything is on the clock. But here's the best part. If you do what you're supposed to do, you don't have to worry about it. Which is why I went and asked you at the beginning, what did I ask you? Any decisions were ever made from your point of view by a smartphone or some sort of electronic activity? Really not, but it could disqualify you. And I'm sure you've heard it from everybody, but I'm telling you, it happens. So hopefully I didn't bore too many people. I think everybody's breathing, that's good. How's the video? Enjoy it? What were you listening to?
I was listening to this.
Who was it? Oh, come on. Who was it? Anyways, any questions? I appreciate you staying awake, seriously. And part of what I do also, I always give myself available to the school for whatever, like today. I'm also on the visiting committee for CPASS, which are graduates from the school that come back, and we meet twice a year. Actually, the Hall of Fame is tomorrow night, but we meet twice a year, and what we do is we hear what the school is doing, what they have done, what their game plan is for the next strategic plan. Could be anywhere from 6 months to 5 years or whatever it is. And they actually ask us for our input. I can't even get my wife to ask me what I'm thinking, but you know, it's kind of cool. And to see the change in CPASS from literally having classes or meetings with instructors at the Coliseum, underneath the stands, in something just maybe a little bit bigger than a closet, to what you have today, to this. I mean, it's grown huge in a very short period of time, and you're reaping the benefits of it. But my suggestion to you is that just don't expect it to happen. It only happens if you decide to. Because again, I'm not hiring a 4. I'm hiring a 10. So, anyways, what else do we? Is that actually? Is that pretty good, or did I go too far?
Yeah, no, that's great. We actually have till 1:45.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I want to just kind of join in the conversation and try to make some linkages to what we've done and you know, this whole notion of giving back. So I want you to kind of think back to when we did our favorite teacher, our favorite coach assignment. Because a lot of what we talked about today, it's like, well, what was their why? Hey, what do you think their why was, right? Because you know, Mr. Zulia said, yes, he already told you what your exit slip is today. Who was paying attention? Okay, what was it? What is it?
2 or 3 sentences of why you want to do what you want to do.
Right? Why are we getting into coaching? Why are we getting into teaching? Okay, this is that mission statement, right? That's going to guide everything what we're doing in here, right? And so I think it's really important to think about, okay, even that activity. I mentioned, I said, hey, you know, do you know what those coaches and those teachers, you know what makes their day? If they have an old student, just like Mr. Zulia was saying, hey, how many of you went back and saw your coach? And we had a handful, right? You know, it makes their day when you come back and show them how meaningful your life has been and that they were a huge part of it, right? And so this is the full circle. This is coming back. Why do you think he drove? It was supposed to be, what, 3.5 hours. It turned out to be more like 4.5 hours. All the way down here to be with us today, right? And to give back to like you said, they were in closets before. And not only is he giving back, you also have a scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us more about your scholarship?
My wife and I, a few years ago, for CPASS, started an endowment for the school, and there's some criteria that you kind of go through, but it's available to once or twice a year, depending on the availability and what they're looking for. But that was actually a pretty cool experience to do that, because I knew that first of all, my wife went to Alabama. My wife reminds me every year that she has to change the sticker on the back of her car because they win championships every year. Whatever. But she knew literally from the time that she first met me that WVU was pretty much ingrained in me. And if I could do anything to give back, we were going to do it. And so having that ability to do that is money well spent, and we did do it without any reservation at all.
So thank you for giving back, and you know, looking around, this is the donors, the people that give back. This is why we have grown to where we're at now in CPASS, and so that's huge. And another thing too that I did want to check in with Mr. Zulia about was, you know, we hadn't necessarily gotten more of that day-to-day, you know, athletic training experience and kind of what that looks like. Even more of like even like a sport management perspective. Because part of this class is just seeing how our internal interdisciplinary work can be done.
Athletic training, because if you look at it from the Department of Athletics perspective, when do most teams practice? Like 2 o'clock on, in some way, shape, or form, 2 o'clock on. So the curriculum has our classes were usually in the morning. I think they still are. And whatever we took outside of the major, we had to be done by 1, 2 o'clock, because in most cases the athletic training staff needs to be at the training room or the venue before the athletes get there, or at least before the athletes get down to where they're going to be prepared for on-the-field practice. And then guess what happens after practice? You got to be there afterwards for when they're treating. So my day would literally go from 7:30 in the morning to about 7 at night. I never napped until I was in my junior and senior year, I do a 15 to 20 minute power nap from 7 to about 7:15. And then, you know, studied all the time. But that you had to have a structure. You're on the team, right?
No, I'm not.
Were you?
I'm sure.
Okay, so same thing. You got structure. I've seen you before. You've got structure. You can't not be not someplace. Or just, you have to, in whatever you're doing, you have to do it either before or after what you're required to do for the activity. But you're not really going to school for that. Then why do you do it? Because you enjoy it. Again, it's having fun. So, anyways, I recognize you back quickly. But I saw that and I went, wait a minute, that looks like it's athletic department issue. So, any other questions? Anything else that, hopefully that helped, gave you some perspective. So, appreciate your time.
Thank you.